I decided to address an issue that is really an issue for two audiences, where the question that's being asked mimics the question that was being asked. And it's not so much that there are two answers, there's only one answer, so to speak, but there's two audiences. And their motives for asking the question, what they mean by them, is very different. The question is home computer pornography corruption. What makes the two angles being brought to bear on the question different is that one right-wing community really does not care, but they measure their not caring by the brutality with which they insist that they do. The other group are more concerned to understand. Martha Gellhorn comes to mind when I read World War II writers like Herbert Agar, who wrote A Time for Greatness. She talks about being seduced at the front by soldiers, and she says it meant so much to them and meant so little to me. It's important that people who believe that liberalism trivializes what for them is a momentous cause of sexual fidelity, and at minimum not trivializing lovemaking between people. They consider that important. Well, it's not against the character of a good person not to see sex as all that important, not to, shall we say, be preoccupied with its significance. Martha Gellhorn said it meant so little to her, and it meant so much to them. We must acknowledge that it does mean so much to some people. But before you claim that I'm trivializing the significance of the so-called corruption, you should bear in mind that this maniacal government operation totally discounts and trivializes that at the age of 9 years old, I was super inducted to a criminal operation from a secret illegal military cult that they are representing. That's a very, very strange thing to be trivializing, the torture of a child. Now, they say that they just experimented on me because I was there. I was a liberal child, so let's draw up the experimental exam sheets. But anyone who looks honestly at the circumstances and the way they went about it has to admit that it was mandatory, that I was brutally drafted, that they used an implant to induce seizures if I disobeyed. Another maniacal thing to be very trivializing about. But counterculture did try to change. The balance of power in our culture between those to whom it means so little and those who are sometimes even obsessed. And so pornography can be considered, at least some interpretations of it can be considered, an outgrowth of the counterculture. So, is it safe? Is it clean? Is it capable of being improved? Does it yield to consideration? Is it kept private or is it mandatory? Obviously, it should be kept private and is not mandatory. So who made it mandatory for a child to be brutally inducted into its slave system in Highland Park of Pittsburgh? Well, it's clear who they are. They're the people who ask the question, who don't really care. But they make up for not really caring by the brutality which they insist they do.